this auspicious occasion, the ordination of Reverend Michael Bernard Lattimore. Let us have the minister's roll call, starting with the illustrious minister of this beautiful center, Reverend Charles David Rose. International Center, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith. And also from Agape, Reverend Coco Stewart. In association with Ahia, Reverend Amadi Hines. And with Ahia, Reverend Leela Harris from the Renewal Center. And also representing Ahia and the New Thought World, Reverend Donna Burns. From the Sanctuary for Spiritual Living in Covina, Reverend Dr. Carol Bliss. From Agape International Spiritual Center, Reverend Susan Shahan. From Downey Center for Spiritual Living, Reverend Sunshine Day. The co-minister of Central Coast Center for Spiritual Living, Dr. Don Welsh. Center for Spiritual Living, Reverend Patrick Harpula. Wilkins? Saving the best for last. Reverend Carol Wilkins. And our special guest of honor, the man of the minute, the day, the week, and this year, Reverend Michael Bernard.
morning or higher. Good morning. It's morning somewhere. And how's everyone doing this morning?
Well with my soul.
Oh, make up your mind. Let's stay with one. Let's try grateful with no complaints. Now, how's everyone doing this morning?
Grateful with no complaints.
There you go. Thank you. And thank you for taking time for your busy days and joining us here this afternoon for one of the most sacred occasions known to a minister, and that is the ordination, where they move from being a licensed minister to being an ordained. And what does that mean? It is the fulfillment of a dream on the part of Reverend Michael Bernard Lattimore. A number of years ago, he had this dream, in fact, over a decade. God knocked and he said, yes, I am willing. And he buckled up for the ride. And it has been a ride. But it represents the culmination of all of his dedication, devotion, determination, and the fulfillment of that dream, his hard work. Spending 2 to 3 years in the fundamental classes here, spending 2 years training to become a practitioner, and spending 3, 4, 5 years in the School of Ministry at the Agape International Spiritual Center. So we're honored to help him celebrate this occasion. I commend him, his dedication. As he steps into ordination, it simply says, as they like to say at Agape, he is simply here for God. And he sees that divine presence in all activities and in all individuals. And he honors it. I call this man the Energizer Bunny. With all that he is involved in on the board of trustees for the Casa House. He served on the board here. He is the cyber technician and a host of other things. But before we move into this service, I'd like to call forth the Reverend Dr. Donna Burns to invoke.
Now that we have had our hearts and our minds opened so broadly with the music and the kind words, let's take a moment to deepen that opening. I invite you to be still, and if so comfortable, you might close your eyes, whatever makes you keenly aware of the infinite presence that is here within each and every one of us, within each and every word that will be spoken, each song that will be sung, every thought surrounding this beautiful day is that of in the presence, the power of God. Each of us are here by divine appointment to celebrate the one we call Reverend Mike, who was ordained before he entered into this life. He had no choice. His soul agreed. And we celebrate with the love that is in our hearts, that is the love that God is. We celebrate that presence in the minister we call Reverend Mike. We give thanks, Father, Mother God, that you have let each one of us step forward this day to recognize your love, your light, that we call Reverend Mike. We thank you for the service he is and does and will do. And we know that infinite love will support and guide him in each step along his way. And so for this opportunity, and so much more, we do say thank you. Thank you, Father, Mother God, that you have made it so. And so then it is. Amen. And amen.
Join me, please, if you know the song. Use me, oh God, I stand with you. With all of my might as you show me. All that I must do. I used to think God was the sun, God is the sun, but not so much more than the earth or the stars or all of creation. God is creator, all in all, leading us to shine His light as we, as you, so use me. Oh God, I stand with you, with all of might as you show me. All that I must do, all that is, command my hands. What must they do? Command my life. It's here for you. God is the love that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new, and God leads us to shine His light as me, as you shall use me. Oh God, I stand with you, and here all of as you show me. All that I must do, all that I must do, show me all that I must do.
As was mentioned earlier, Reverend Mike's journey began over 20 years ago. And he's been on that journey, and it's comparable to peeling an onion. I can recall when he literally stumbled into this church, wanting to know what was it about. He had a multitude of questions, but there was something within him, there was a light about him. You could sense and feel his radiant presence, his hunger for the truth. You could see the divine revealing itself in him and the various activities that he chose to partake in. He's a man with a compassionate heart, a healing presence, and a man that doesn't know how to say no. Well, except for one area. When I asked him if he would clean my windows, he said no. It's an honor to have had him as a student. It's an honor to have had him not only teach here, but also at Casa House every Friday at 2 o'clock. He gives a lot of himself, sometimes without giving to himself. We're all truly blessed and honored by him and by his healing consciousness and his love of spirit. He always goes back to God is always good. 724. He always remembers that there's not a spot where God is not. I thank you for having answered the call. It's an honor and a blessing to know you and to be in your presence. And let's move on with the service. Reverend Leela.
As spiritual leaders, we are entrusted with growing consciousness of people. And to do so, it is really, really necessary for us to be able to move our personal agendas out of the way. Many years ago, about 15, 20 years ago, at INTA, I came across a reading that touched my heart very deeply. It spoke to me of what had been modeled by teachers and friends that I've had. And I now share this reading with you and expect that it too will touch your heart. The title is A Minister by James Dillard Freeman, who was a minister of unity. A minister. What does it mean to be a minister? It means to make yourself small so that others may feel large. It means to make yourself a servant so that others may feel their mastery. It means to give so that those who lack may receive. It means to love so that those who feel unloved may have someone who never rejects them, someone with whom they can always identify. It means to hold out your help to those who ask and deserve it, and also to those who do not ask or deserve it. It means always to be there when you are needed, yet never to press yourself on another when you are not wanted. It means to stay at peace so that those who are contentious will have someone to whom they can turn to stabilize themselves. It means to keep a cheerful outlook so that those who are easily cast down may have someone to lift them up. It means to keep faith and to keep on keeping faith even when you yourself find little reason for believing, so that those who have no faith can find the courage to live. It means not merely to live a life of prayer, but to turn your prayers into life. More life for you, more life for those to whom you minister. It means to be God-centered and human-hearted, to involve yourself in humanity, and to keep your vision on divinity, and so draw forth in all around you the human form divine. It means to share in the great moments of life, in birth and sickness and marriage and death. And at all these times, whether of crisis or of celebration, to bring comfort and a blessing, and above all, a sense of a presence that sometimes we cannot see, and of a meaning that often we overlook. That is what it means to be a minister of God and a minister to humanity.
Reminding us of why we got into this business in the first place. Yeah, so I'm going to read the principles, Science of Mind principles upon which we stand. We've heard it a lot of times, but we never hear it enough. So you can reflect on them, let them reverberate in your heart as I read them. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. We believe in the incarnation of spirit in all, and that we are all incarnations of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. We believe that heaven is within us, and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny. For we know that the life of all is God. Amen. And so it is. Amen. And I shall.
Sometimes I
How do you introduce someone that needs no introduction? Someone that abided by that song that he wrote, where he hushed and gave birth to a magnificent church. 3 services, in excess of 1,500 people per service. The man has over 400 and maybe over 500 practitioners at this point in time. He has written or authored in excess of 5 or 6 books, a multitude of CDs. The man has written over 100 songs along with Ricky Byers. He was a former board member of the INTA, New Thought Alliance or Association. And he realized it was time to move on, and as he did, he gave birth to the Association of Global New Thought. He has enough awards, recognitions, that he has wallpapered one of his rooms with him. He has evolved to being a 20th and 21st century mystic. He has done much in such a short period of time. He's been on Oprah, Larry King, and a host of other programs. He was involved in the law of attraction. He popularized visioning and holding vision. Many of you may not know he was in prison recently. We didn't have to bail him out. He was over in South Korea teaching classes in prison. I have no idea how that came about. I just know this man is spirit-led, spirit-guided, and directed. And he always says yes. I am honored to call him a colleague. I'm even more honored to call him a friend for his support throughout the years. Please join me in acknowledging the Reverend Dr. Michael.
Fake news on the wallpaper awards. Reverend Charles, David Rose, we were just speaking, and I said, you don't need to introduce me, you need to just go up and speak. And he said, no, I'm going to introduce you. I said, I can just go up. He said, no, I can introduce you. I said, well, this is your house. And we've known each other and been in each other's space for over 30 years. And matter of fact, he was an assistant minister at Agape International when I first started, so we go back a long way. But today we're here to celebrate the Reverend Michael Bernard Lattimore. Today he grows from Mike to Michael. So all the people that have been calling him Mike, after today it's over. He's tuning into his ordination vibration and inviting the Archangel Michael vibration to move through him. Archangel Michael don't like to be called Mike. But with all jesting aside, it's wonderful, and I'm honored to be here to be in service to this community and to this man here today. And he holds the vibration, obviously, of service. He holds the vibration of evolution of consciousness, and he holds the vibration of anchoring the transcendent on earth as it is in the mind of the infinite. When we think about him, and as the Reverend Rose spoke about him in terms of his ability to say yes, in terms of his ability and willingness to be of service, his willingness to step up to the plate and to immerse himself in a total givingness of the Spirit in terms of sacred service, we are aware that he knows the difference between, as I like to say, small s success and large s success. The small s success is what you can take and what you can get. Small s success is the awards that you get. The small s success is the accumulation of money, accumulation of things in the world. Small s success is celebrity. Small s success is being famous. That's all the small s of success that runs the gamut of our human experience, particularly in America, where consumerism and materialism run rampant. But we're celebrating this man's ordination because he stands in the vibration of the large S, success. And large S success has something to do with service, has something to do with generosity, has something to do with giving. And so when you leave the planet, it's not how much you received, how much you've taken from the world, but it's how much you have given, how much you have shared, how much you have radiated, how much you have glowed. So we're celebrating him today because of the fact that he knows the difference between those two successes and has leaned into the dynamic success of giving and sharing and shining so that those around him get a dynamic feeling tone of the greatness within them as well. And so that his time on the planet as a minister, his time on the planet as a sacred servant, his time on the planet as one who is yielded and surrendered to the divine presence is a time of total generosity, total givingness, real success. The one that activates your consciousness so that he knows and that we know right here in this sacred community that you only get to keep what you give away. And he is giving away so much on a regular basis that today he's stepping into a long-term at-one-ment consciously with the presence of God as an ordination. We also know what he knows. And that we are here to continue to evolve and unfold, to reflect and to reveal the cosmos in a way that has never happened before. He knows that today, as he is being ordained, he is just getting started. He knows that he's barely scratching the surface. He knows that he reflects and reveals something that is so infinite that everything that he has given up to this moment is just a platform for him to leap into a greater expression of the generosity of his soul. He's just getting started. Michael, you're just getting started, brother. This is a starting point for you. And the community is embracing that. Therefore, somewhere within him, whether he uses these words or not, he knows the difference between his personality and his sacred spirit. He knows that the spirit, that this personality arises from time, it rises from experience, it rises as a reaction to things that happen in life, DNA, heredity. You have a certain kind of personality based on the things that have happened to you in the world, but your spirit is eternal, unborn, forever and ever, unfolding to reveal the infinite nature of God. And that the personality's character is self-preservation, but the spirit's character is unfoldment. Constantly unfolding, not seeking to preserve, but seeking to give, which caused Jesus to say, if one were to save that life, you'll lose it. But if you lose your life for my sake, if you lose your life for the eternal, if you lose your life in the unfolding of more good than you could possibly imagine, you'll live in life eternal. He knows the difference, which is why we be standing in the awareness of constantly unfolding and reflecting and revealing the infinite. He's being ordained into the dynamic of service, into the dynamic of unfolding consciousness. And he knows, and we all know, that he is an anchor point of the divine on earth. So what does that mean? There's a wonderful woman that's alive today, a great medium, does wonderful workshops on intuition and tapping into your awareness of the presence of God guiding you. Her name is Patricia Corey, and wonderful books out. And there was a moment in her life where she was teaching a class in Hawaii. And she couldn't continue with the class because she had a severe headache. And she had to retire to her room. The headache did not cease. And so she tuned into it and realized that the headache was actually the dolphins in the ocean trying to communicate with her. And she had never really communicated with another species, so there was a recalibration of energy that had to happen. And as she finally recalibrated, the dolphins told her that they were going to beach themselves the next day and commit suicide because the sonar waves from the Navy was messing up their brain, was causing so much severe pain that they couldn't live anymore, and that the dolphins and some whales were going to beach themselves the next day, and they did. One of the things they said before they did that, they said, we under the ocean, the dolphins, we carry a certain frequency, a certain vibration that keeps a level of homeostasis underground. And that we hold that vibration so that the debris, the pollutants, the ways that humanity disregards Mother Earth, we hold that in bay so that we totally do not destroy the planet. The same way in which people on top of the earth that are praying, that are in meditation, and that are making great compositions, great art, urban shamans that go beyond the three-dimensional realm and catch the vibration, the frequency of divine answers, catch the frequency of guidance and wisdom, hold the space on top of the earth. The dolphins are holding it in the water. I say all that to say that Michael knows that he's an anchor point, holding the dynamic of wisdom and guidance and direction, unconditional, all-conditional love, dynamic peace, which is the dynamic of harmonizing good, holding that space with all of the practitioners that are here, holding this space with individuals who have stepped up to become creative artists, holding this space with individuals who will pierce the veil of three dimensions and are catching a divine vision of the possibility of the human species. He's an anchor point of that dynamic. No one may know about him outside of our particular denomination. It doesn't matter. Holding that space so that the next stage of human evolution can occur. He's a sacred service. He knows the difference between the small s success and the large s success. He's an evolutionary. He knows that he's barely scratching the surface of this unfolding good that wants to express through him. And he is an anchor point for the eternal to reveal itself through each and every one of us. And he knew, as Reverend Leela was speaking earlier, that he was called even before he was born. He knew when he took an incarnation, as all of you did in this room, you knew you were going to incarnate in a time in which there's tremendous turbulence going on in the human condition. You weren't pushed, you chose to be here. You knew, he knew, that we would be here during a time in which the old would be dying and the new would be emerging, that we'd be moving to another level of consciousness, that we'd be in a renaissance of hospicing the old and midwifing the new. He knew that we would be in the